On page Kuf Nun Zayin, and we will start from the line that begins as ratzon ha'elyon. This is like smack in the middle of the page, right below the line that begins with Odom Godel, the Odom Godel. But when you finished, the sentence that we are in the middle over here is that there's simcha in the fact that he is fulfilling the ratzon ha'elyon. As in the mashal of Odom Godel, a simpleton who fulfills the will of the Odom Godel, which gives him simcha and oinek, appreciation. In discussing these principles that we're learning here now, it came back to me that I realized that there is a profound misunderstanding of the principles that we're learning here. And I fully understand where this misunderstanding is coming from, and it's imperative that we put it straight and we understand it correctly. And here is a point that I discovered. That some of us, we talk about such thing as Kabbalah soil and dedication and all the nice things that we're talking about. All of these nice things can be identified on two very different platforms. And the difference is extremely significant. If a person has Kabbalah soil, I'm just giving the background of this difference. Person has Kabbalah soil. He is disciplined to do the right thing. This principle that he is disciplined to do the right thing on demand and so forth can very well be focused on one's own perfection, on one's own accomplishment, defining factors of what kind of person he is. He's a person who is capable to do the right thing upon demand. He has self-control. He's not swayed by side issues and so forth, all kinds of different things that come up in this vein. It has to be understood this is not in the realm of Kabbalah soil. Not at all. Because this is entirely, one may say, self-serving, even though you say he is disciplining himself, he's forcing himself to do the right thing. How is it self-serving? So, even if we don't put it in these coarse words in terms of self-serving, there is not the element of Malchus Shammai, or by the simpleton, there's not the element of the Odom Godel. His entire Kabbalah Soil is based on identifying his own qualities. BMH, have self-respect. This is not what we're talking about. This is why there's such a long discussion over here. We are talking about literally Kabbalah Sil Malchus Shomayim, the cognizance of the Malchus Shomayim, as subservience to the Malchus Shomayim, not reflected back onto oneself. I'm doing the right thing. Even if it's not patting himself in the back, I'm doing the right thing. But if it has to do with the fact that he must do the right thing, that already is not what we're talking about. Kabbalah Shul Malchus Shemayim, and the same thing in the Moshe of the Model and God and so forth. This is infinitely superior and completely different principle. The superiority of it can be pointed to immediately, directly. What is his reality? What is the reality in which he functions? Is the reality his own existence? No matter how great and how responsible he is, or the reality is that of the Creator. The makif that we say. Is he at all into the makif? Is he interested in the makif? Is he interested in being a good person? A responsible person? Any which way that we identify this quality in this vein is not what we're talking about. We're talking about a full-fledged consciousness, recognition that number one, we live in the Meibushin's reality, not in our own mind. And number two, that we dedicated to this life in the Meibushin's reality. That is what we are dedicated, this is what we are interested in doing the right thing from the Meibushin's vantage point. For the Meibush, not for ourselves. Not in order to be a perfect and responsible person, a disciplined person. The entire discussion is centered on this principle. It behooves us to rethink to ourselves, make sure that we have it right. The Kabbalah says, the Rebbe is saying, is in beyond this which we are now identifying. But at the minimum, Kabbalah Shemayim is that you should be connected to Malchus Shemayim. That's what Kabbalah saying is. I'm doing it because that's the will of the Mebash's will, not that which complements me. This is why it's called Kabbalah's oil, accepting the yoke, a yoke you accept from something that is above you, that puts a yoke on you. Not that you're accepting the yoke of your own responsibility. Having clarified that, and if you reflect on this, then the various things that the Rebbe talks about begin to surface, begin to make sense. And we said we started smack in the middle of the page, which begins, the line begins with ratzon ha'elyon. He has, and the end of that sentence, this is the end of the sentence that says that he is besimcha, and he has oineg, he's delighted in the fact that there is oineg l'maylo. The Rebbe is pleased with him, and thus he has a sense of this pleasure. He is pleased with the fact that the Rebbe is pleased with him. So first we talk about ratzon, that he fulfills the ratzon shel Maila. And then in the line that we are learning now, Ulamayla Mizeh, and even higher than the AYIN, fulfilling the ratzon shel Maila, the ratzon from above. Above that, who shemisanig batanik sheyilod, that he actually experiences the delight that the audience has from having fulfilled his mission, his request. V'hainu, which means shemisanig b'hatainuk shalamayla. He delights in the very tainuk that from above. And again, we already discussed it, and I want to clarify it because of this thing that I discovered. I found out that there's complete misunderstanding of the principles we're learning. Misanig b'hatanik shalamayla. It is not that he tells himself, "Oh, I caused tainuk l'mayla, and I am delighted that I was able to cause tainuk shalamayla." That is not. Even that is not correct. Or it's much closer than the error that I discovered. Here we're talking about something much deeper. That's what it says, L'mayla Mizeh. He actually joins in with the L'mayla, with the L'kruz. And the Nachas Ruach Shel L'mayla is his Nachas Ruach. That is really a very, very supreme madrega. That's what I'm saying. L'mayla Mizeh. Below that is much more accessible, and we can relate to it much more readily. That one is delighted in the fact, besimcha, in the fact that he can fulfill the will Shalamayim. But again, this is the will Shalamayla, not that thereby he becomes a perfect person. Then the Rebbe says there is even a higher Madrege where he actually is a participant. He feels the ratzon, the AYIN Shalamayla. Ultimately, we have to reconnect all of the concepts that are surfacing to the term Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim. Kabbalah Seil means accepting the yoke. We're not talking about experiencing that which is happening there, or understanding and appreciating. That's not what we're talking about. The Kabbalah Seil, accepting the yoke. And the Rebbe says, as we're going to come to, be dedicated to it. And the Rebbe is, why is it called Kabbalah Seil? Since he's actually a participant that's in the high Madrid. The reason this is called Kabbalah Seil is not that it has to be superimposed upon him. It has to be forced on him. The reason it's called Kabbalah Seil is that this dedication is not something that he came to, that is accomplished via going through all the various pathways and the various considerations, and ultimately coming to a decision. Kabbalah Seil means he bypasses all the other possibilities. Does not even consider other alternatives. That's why it's called Malchus Shamayim, just like a melech. A melech, when one is in the vicinity of a melech, he may be in the melech's palace, and the palace is grandiose. There's many things that could be distractive. Distractive. There are many interests on the pathway to the melech. But he's in the vicinity of a melech. He must not distract himself. He must not recognize anything else but the melech himself. He skips everything, which is what's called Kabbalah Seil Malchus Shamayim. He does not question himself. Can I give up all of this? Can I give this up? There's Malchus Shamayim, and then you go straight to that. That's what's called Kabbalah Seil. Kabbalah Seil is, by definition, a tremendous skip, because he's not going through the various levels that are required for him to reach that madrega. But because he is in the presence of the melech, he goes straight to that. That's what Kabbalah Seil. This Kabbalah Seil, the Rebbe explains, even though he does not go to the pathway through identifying all the various levels that he is passing through, and is going from level to level. He is going straight to the highest. And yet, so he is in fact ignoring, so to speak, his own experience. He goes straight to the target, to the goal, to the highest level, beyond that which he can possibly associate and appreciate. He's not up to that level. This is why it's called Kabbalah soil. And then the Rebbe says, a phenomenal thing, despite the fact that he has now ignored his own interests completely, his own experiences completely. Yet, therein, there is the union of ratzon and oinek. There's an aspect of oinek therein. This is the great thing that the Rebbe is pointing out. And this is the challenging aspect to us. How can there be oinek if a person ignores his interests, ignores his feelings, so to speak? And the answer is, this oinek is due to the fact that he's connected to something way superior to anything that he can experience on his own. This is identified as the makif. The effect of the presence of that which is superior in a makif manner. You cannot possibly fully understand it. If you're in the vicinity of the Melech, and you say, oh, Melech, can I shake your hand? Oh, that would be a great pleasure. What kind of thing is it? Chutzpah. You stand at attention, and there is no such thing as approaching the Melech. May I shake your hand? You do me the honor of shaking your hand. That is the greatest dishonor. That means that you don't understand who you're dealing with. If that's the case, you cannot approach the Melech, not even to shake his hand. So what then is your relation? In what way are you then connected to him? You're connected to him via the makif that he engenders by his presence. In his presence, you are in totally different reality. That which will be normal and fully acceptable under different circumstances, in his presence, this is totally out of question. There's a makif element. Makif comes from that which is out of proximity, superior to where you are. You can only recognize its presence from a distance, from a superior level, not appreciating it and actually understanding and relating to it, and touching it, or shaking your hand. This makif, even though this completely negates your own mitzvahs, that's what's called Kabbalah. So Kabbalah says you accept the yoke. You accept it. It completely negates your own mitzvahs. Therein is contained a phenomenal element of oinek. where you actually experience oinig from this uplift, from this superior presence. And here I have to add this principle which we already discussed. This makif of the presence of the Melech. Very important point. The presence of the Melech creates this awe situation, not because the Melech may get angry and punish you. Just the opposite. Because the Melech is actually bestowing his presence upon you. He says, you are mine. When the Melech says you are mine, you melt out into as butter. Because this is an uplift beyond anything that you can imagine. So this is not coming from a negative perspective. It's not out of fear for punishment or anything, of negativity. It is literally recognizing something totally superior. And this superiority is what you want to relate to. This superiority is what you're dedicated to. You know you'll never be able to replicate and to duplicate. You go to a class, to a great scholar, and he's teaching you. His understanding, his knowledge is infinitely superior to yours. But your attempt there is to understand what he teaches, and you hope eventually you'll fully understand what he's teaching. And who knows? You may reach the point where you become the teacher. All of this whole path is not within concept of a melech. No one who comes close to the melech is hoping maybe I'll be melech sometime. This is why a melech, it's called Kabbalah's oil. It's completely superimposed on. Not because by this experience you eventually become a melech. But this experience you will translate with your actions, with your life that which the melech wants. That which the Melech bestows upon you. And it always remains the Melech's influence. Even when you are completely adept and perfect and expert on the functions of the way the Melech wants you, it doesn't make you a Melech. You're always just reflective of his wishes, of his want, of his presence. This is why this is called Kabbalah soil. You did not go through the process of the intellectual and the emotional acquiescence. It is the Melech, the presence of the Melech itself, that is effective in you. You totally dedicate him and let him do whatever he does. Therein, there's a uniform oinik, even though it's a complete negation of yourself. But there's tremendous oinik because you are experiencing the actual presence of the Melech. This experience in the actual presence of the Melech is something which causes you to totally ignore your own quote-unquote petty interests and you allow yourself to be influenced by the statement, you belong to the Melech. You belong to the Melech because the Melech has identified you as such, has claimed you. Kabbalah said, because you belong to the Melech by the claim of the Melech, you have the makif, the effect of the Melech's presence in your life. It is all, so to speak, one-sided. It is all coming from him. It is not due to your appreciation. This brings out a deeper an element of oinek beyond anything that you would imagine on your own. To be the Eved of the Melech itself has an element of oinek. Let us try to focus in, where does oinek come into this? You completely negated your own mitzvahs. The answer is, thereby, as a result of this connection, of this bitul, your own mitzvahs is now translated and now becomes something completely different. Whereas before your mitzvahs was part of the world, now your mitzvahs is part of the Elokus. Your mitzvahs, as you are, because you bypass your own process and you connect directly to the Malchus Shemayim. Your mitzvahs is now a completely different mitzvahs. Your mitzvahs is now being remade, re-attracted, retranslated, redefined. Because a melech is an eved is a eved through and through. The whole mitzvahs is redefined as being the eved of the melech. You can no longer go back and say, yeah, yesterday I was not an eved, today I'm an eved. None of that remains. The whole mitzvahs is redefined. Okay, I have a couple more minutes. And I'm going to bring this, so to speak, to the point. There's a profound difference between how things occur and accomplished through a worldly process versus how things occur and accomplished through a divine process. And to jump across and to give a motion for this, it's not a practical motion, but nonetheless, it's a means by which we can allude to it. We all know that, for example, if a carpenter is building a table, he must first have the picture of the table in his mind. Not only the picture in there, he has to appreciate what a table is. He has to appreciate, so to speak, the dignity that a table brings along to the person. If he doesn't appreciate it, he cannot build. He cannot only give a form, a structure of a table, not a table. Which means that he has a full appreciation of its significance. And then he starts translating it. How do you represent it in the physical world? And in this process of representing in the physical world, there are many obstacles. You have to find the proper word. You have to chisel it down, smooth it out, and all kinds of different different. Now, let us, for a moment, go into our imagination. Imagine that you, or this carpenter, were able to build the table directly from his thought, from the way he imagines it, directly from the person, from the way he appreciates what it is, directly from its concept rather than how it's applied physically. It would be a perfect thing. The perfection there would be that it is being created by the concept rather than adjusting to the environment. This is the difference between how Melech does things and how the simpleton does. A Melech goes straight to the end purpose. He doesn't have to recognize, give cognizance to the various pathways. He creates things by will. And this is why, in the vicinity of the Melech, you're in an entirely different environment. Not an environment that has been built piecemeal. An environment that was built dynamically, straight from the will and the values of the Melech. This is why, looking at the greatness of the palace and all the architecture, so this is a complete distraction. This is a complete misunderstanding. This is not what you're looking at, because this is not how it came about. It came about by the wish and the greatness of the Melech directly. This is what we're saying all the time. There's a divine element. The world was created by Hashem's statement, not by putting pieces together.